Welcome to the Organizedpreneur Podcast, where we dive deep into the art of launching and streamlining your podcast and business for growth. I'm your host, Aldreama Harper. With more than 2 decades of experience in the organizing space, transforming chaos into order and launching 3 podcasts, I decided to combine those experiences to share my insider tips and proven strategies so that you can avoid the pitfalls I've had to overcome. So, whether you're just starting out or looking to enhance your existing endeavor, you'll get the knowledge, the tools, and the strategies to work more efficiently when launching your business or your podcast. You ready? Let's go. Building, marketing, and monetizing your podcast are crucial steps for turning your podcasting endeavor into something sustainable. And today we're going to dive into the crucial steps of building and marketing and monetizing your podcast. This step is essential for turning your podcast into something potentially profitable, a potential profitable venture that ensures your podcast reaches a wider audience, grows your listener base, and again, potentially generate revenue. Podcasting is not just about creating content, it's also about strategically positioning yourself in a competitive market. And if you haven't already heard, there are 2.4 million podcasts. And standing out requires a concerted effort in building a loyal audience and effectively marketing your show and implementing various monetizing strategies. And this process can sometimes be daunting, but with the right approach, it can also be incredibly rewarding. So let's get into it. Let's break down these 3 pivotal steps to help you build your audience, market your podcast, and monetize your content. So I've already shared what the steps are, but I'll do it again because after that, we're going to dive into the step by step formula to help you dominate your industry. And those 3 steps are again, step one, build your audience, step two, market your podcast, and step three, monetize your podcast. So let's talk about step one, build your audience. Building a dedicated audience is the cornerstone, it is the foundation of a successful podcast. A large, engaged listener base not only increases your reach, but also enhances your credibility and attractiveness to sponsors and partners and collaborators. And here's the thing, it doesn't even have to be a large audience, it has to be an engaged audience, an engaged listeners. Now, a larger audience does increase your reach and the potential for monetization. But engaged listeners, whether large or small, are more likely to share your content and contribute to building your community. Now, without doing this, without your audience growing, without your podcast growing, you're probably going to struggle to gain traction and visibility. And failing to build an audience limits your potential for those opportunities, those sponsorship opportunities, those partnerships, those collaborating, can't talk today, collaborating opportunities. And so, step one is you want to make sure you do whatever you need to do in order to build an audience. Build an audience from your email list, build your audience by leveraging social media. Whatever it is you need to do, this is a crucial step. Step two, market your podcast. Effective marketing is essential to increasing your podcast visibility to attract new listeners. Marketing goes beyond merely just posting about your episode. It really does involve a very strategic approach to ensure that your podcast stands out in a crowded market, in the market of 2.4 million podcast that's already out there. Effective marketing increases your podcast visibility and attracts new listeners. And consistent marketing efforts will build brand recognition and loyalty. And I share this all the time. The reason that my first podcast did not go any further than 12 episodes was because number one, I was not consistent. Number two, I really didn't have a strategy. And so this is extremely important nowadays to ensure that you stand out in this crowded market because poor marketing efforts will result in a limited reach and a slower audience growth. And without strong marketing efforts, your brand won't build any type of recognition or audience or loyalty. And you'll remain unknown, just like my podcast that's sitting out there. Nobody even knows about it, other than the fact that I talk about how I only have those 12 episodes because of these very same reasons that I'm sharing with you. So it's important to market your podcast. Number three, monetize your podcast. This is key. This is key to sustaining and growing your podcasting endeavor. Now, there are various ways to generate revenue from a podcast, but each is unique with its own benefits and its own requirements. Now, we're not going to dive too deep into these monetization strategies. However, what I can tell you is that monetizing provides a steady income stream and it allows you to invest in better equipment, better marketing. Maybe you want to do some paid ads, as well as content production. And earning revenue really does ensure your podcast has a long term sustainability and growth. And without monetization, you will probably struggle to cover your production costs and invest in your podcast growth and your business. And a lack of financial reward can lead to burnout and a decrease in content quality. And when I'm telling you this, I'm telling you this from experience. I'm telling you this because of the few episodes when I first started my first podcast 11 years ago, back in 2013. And that's the reason that I only have 12 episodes. Inconsistency. I did not make sure that I was intentional about building an audience. I didn't market my podcast. I didn't monetize my podcast. What are some ways you can monetize your podcast? Though very simple. But here's what I want to do. I want to caution you about monetizing before you have some sustainability. Because too many people out there are trying to monetize and diversify their uh, revenue, their multiple streams of revenue, when they haven't even gotten some momentum on the first thing that they started. And you need to be consistent, but you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan in place, right? And then you can do things that's going to help you to get other streams of income. Then you can do things like have merch on inside of your show notes and be able to show others that so that they can recognize your merchandise, your caps, your mugs, right? Your t-shirts. That's a great way, by the way, to monetize your podcast. Most people think about when monetizing their podcast, most people start thinking about, well, how can I get sponsorship? Well, sponsor yourself. How about you start there? How about that? Sponsor yourself. But you can't do those things without these foundational steps that I have been sharing with you, right? The deal is launching a podcast can really provide many opportunities to grow your business. But the journey starts with a single step: to decide on taking action. If you're looking to launch your podcast and you need a roadmap, book a strategy success call with me. If you're interested in closing the gap between where you are now and where you would like to go, and you need some help in filling in that gap, then on the call, I'll share options that's available to you. And if at that time those options are available, and if it makes sense for us to work together, then we'll discuss how to move forward. And so I encourage you today to go to bit.ly /pod launch call. That's bit dot ly /pod launch call. Again, we'll discuss any options that I have available at that time. It is not a sales call, it is simply a strategy call. So, guess what? I want to close with today's scripture. And today's scripture is from Leviticus 19 and 18. This is the NIV version. It says, "Do not seek revenge or bear a grudge against anyone among your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." That's what the scripture says. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in. And until next time, keep pushing, keep pursuing your entrepreneurial dreams with passion and purpose. Are you ready? Let's go.